For this speech, I'm going to be discussing the topic of homelessness in America, and this is a continuation in our group project. I had the second part of this project. The first half of this speech was covered by Ms. Pent, and her topics are the same in this presentation. It's just she covered a different aspect, and this is my part in the bill. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the statistic of homelessness. Homelessness is a very important issue in the U.S. There's many different linking factors that lead into it. There is certain groups that have a higher percentage of being homeless in the U.S. Normally that falls around the lines of the people in impoverished areas, poverty-stricken, people being abused from spousal abuse, addictions from gambling, drugs, alcohol. They can end up homeless. But one of the key factors they have found is poverty. This is from the National Coalition for the Homeless, from their article in July 2009 called "Why Are People Homeless?" This is a quote from it. "Homelessness and poverty are inextricably linked. Poor people are frequently unable to pay for housing, food, child care, health care, and education. Difficult choices must be made when limited resources come only some of these necessities, cover some of these necessities. Often it is housing which absorbs a high portion of income that must be dropped. If you are poor, you are essentially an illness, an accident, or a paycheck away from living on the streets." So yeah, poverty can be a huge factor, is a huge factor in why people do become homeless. From not being able to pay all their bills for even a one-bedroom apartment. There's many resources out there for them to help on that. But some people, they can't get to it just because of minimum wage issues, things like that I will cover later on. Another thing that's big for homeless areas and why people develop the problem of being homeless is substance abuse from your drugs, things like that, where they dive off into it and that's where their money goes and they choose the addiction over a home. Rates of homelessness, it all varies. There's many different sources on it. Kind of give a breakdown of how many people are homeless in a single night, and this comes from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development from 2016, so this is one of the most recent surveys on this issue. This came from the annual homeless assessment report to Congress. They present this report to Congress every year so they can kind of figure out if they're making an impact or not an impact. On a single night in 2016, 549,928 people were experiencing homelessness in the United States. Majority, 68%, were staying in emergency shelters, transitional housing programs, or safe havens, and 32% were in unsheltered locations. Over 1/5 of the people experiencing homelessness were children, so 22% of that total figure. 69% were over the age of 24, and 9% were between the ages of 18 and 24. So you can see younger people, such as children, with a family, they become homeless. Children are also affected. And then the majority of them are 24, so not much older than, say, your average college graduate. People just starting out in life, probably fell into debt, different things like that, and not having high income as they start out in the workforce. And here's some other interesting statistics, kind of a breakdown of that 500,000 number, based on the, I guess you call it, group or race of the individuals that are experiencing homelessness. This came also from the National Coalition for the Homeless, another one of their articles from July 2009 called "Who is the Homeless?" or "Who is Homeless?" This is their breakdown of ethnicity, and this is from their findings and different resources they pulled. In its 2006 survey of 25 cities, the U.S. Conference of Mayors found that the sheltered homeless population is estimated to be 42% African American, 38% white, 20% Hispanic, 4% Native American, and 2% Asian. And then it goes on, like the total U.S. population, the ethnic makeup of homeless populations varies according to geographic location. For example, poor people experiencing homelessness in rural areas are much more likely to be white. Homelessness among Native Americans and migrant workers is also largely a rural phenomenon. And that comes from a few different sources that they pulled together. Some of those articles I did look up for to find the original source, and those articles were not available online or available for purchase. Different factors like that are different breakups. There's much more in-depth specific items you can find in statistics for homelessness that affect certain age groups, exactly what break it up, things like that. Another big group that is part of the homeless, that is also one that gets a lot of issue, that has its own sources of breakdowns, is like, say, your veteran communities, where veterans become homeless, things like that. So the next point would be, why do they become homeless? What are your major risk factors that lead to becoming homeless? And one, the main three we usually find are poverty, addiction, and then, those are the main two. There's some other little issues that everybody talks about, but a lot of them involve accidents, thefts, things that are out of their own control, unlike poverty and substance abuse. Just so you kind of understand what poverty is, this is from the U.S. Census Bureau and how they define poverty levels. This comes from one of their documents, poverty threshold by size of family and number of children. They call a family unit, so that could be if two people live together that are not blood, that's a family unit by their lines. For someone living by themselves, the poverty line is $12,228. So that's what, at that line, you're impoverished. For a family of two, it's $15,569. And then when you start adding children, it goes up slightly, a little bit more cost. The average, I think, for a family of four, which would be 2 adults, 2 children, was around $24,000. Just an interesting thing on that, that kind of plays a big role into why they become impoverished, where impoverished people have a problem where if you get sick, illness, or an accident, it's very detrimental because of usually low incomes. And then another reason people do become homeless is the loss of like a support structure, like steady income. They'll also, any financial backing, so say stock market crash, values crash, all the money's gone, they can't provide that kind of income. Or say a natural disaster like Harvey we had recently, many people lost their homes. And some people can't recover from that and become homeless for a little while. And then the big reason too that everybody likes to associate with homeless is drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Not saying that many aren't addicted to some sort of substance like that. There's many of them out there that's what they choose to do in life, is live through just supporting that addiction. They don't care about the home or anything like that. That is one thing it's a very big issue that's focused on, is trying to help them get clean and understand that they can live a much better life away from that and becoming successful. One thing people ask a lot, why do these things have such a big impact? So like your wages. This is from the Department of Labor on minimum wage, and this was from 2017, talking about the minimum wage in the country. The federal minimum wage for covered non-exempt employees is $7.25 per hour, effective July 24, 2009. The federal minimum wage provisions are contained in the Fair Labor Standards Act. Many states have a minimum wage laws in case where an employee is subject to both state and federal minimum wage laws, an employee entitled to higher than 2 minimum wages. So states like California, you have a $10 minimum wage. Texas, Texas has an $8.25 minimum wage. But federally, it's $7.25. So if you think about that, roughly a year, you're making very low money. If you try to support off that, you're going to be making around poverty. And that's where the impact of it is. A lot of people, that's the main job they get in. If they get stuck, say in a non-hiring market where you can't get a job easily to make more payments or get paid more, you'll be stuck at $7.25 unless your state has a different rate. And that makes it very easy to fall into heavy debt where you can't support yourself and you have to make hard choices and give up homes, food, things like that. There is support groups out there, different welfares and assistance programs that can help get them out of that. And that's where the loss of like the support structure income is such a big effect on the homelessness American problem, just because they can't afford to get out of those situations. Many of them do work through it, you have to get out of it. It just takes time and help from other people. Addiction also, it's another topic for why they become homeless and why it's such a big effect on it. Many people will get addicted to hard drugs, and that's what they fall into, and they're going to feed the addiction. Trying to keep it going, and they will stop paying house notes, car notes, things like that, to the point they get kicked out of their home, evicted, things like that, and fall into a bad path that leads them to homelessness. So in conclusion, homelessness is a problem that faces many of Americans, about 50,000 or 500,000 Americans. Sometimes being homeless is by choice, sometimes it's not. It's all different things that they kind of face and have to try to recover from if they choose so. There's so many different variabilities in it from case to case that could be looked at, try to figure it out. It's a very complex issue that needs to be resolved. Hopefully you found some information from Mrs. Pence presentation on it and along the line. From the different statistics presented, different ways of help, how long they normally stay homeless, and why it's so impactful to certain variables that does affect them. And with that, thank you.